Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the new selected style of house, like Gorgon City, YUMA, SOMMA, that style of stuff. As usual, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets. The entire template from this video is available at the top of the description on my Bandcamp, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much to everybody who goes and grabs it on Bandcamp or Patreon as well. Really helps support me. You know, I don't make a whole lot just off of YouTube, especially the ads are pretty crappy right now. But with these sample packs and different stuff like this, I'm able to keep going, keep bringing you guys new videos every single day. So thank you so much for the support, and let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 126 BPM already, you know, a little bit faster, especially like the older style of selected stuff was more like 122, 123. So 126, you know, it's a little bit more like tech house, a little bit more upbeat. It seems subtle, but a lot of times, like, that difference of like 3 or 4 BPM actually does make a big difference when you're talking about the overall song. And it's a very subtle thing, but, you know, it's all these little tiny things that add 5 or 10% that then, by the time you get to the end of the track, you have 100% or 110%, ideally. So, first thing we got up here is this little organ. So what's going on here is we're in the key of F major. So basically, this is just playing 2 notes from that key, and it's actually 2 very simple notes. Really 3 notes, but only 2 notes at a time. So here, it's just the root note, and then the 5th right there. So yeah, root note, and then 5th, and then here, same 5th, but now we're using the major 7th, which is a very fancy way of saying 1 note down from your root note. And then when you have this, just kind of droning on like this, while the chords are changing, you can hear it sounds really nice to just have something like kind of simple like this, just kind of changing 1 note like that in the bass, while everything else is changing. The other thing you hear when I solo that bass line is you can hear the groove that's being created by having 2 different rhythms here. So that's the other thing that's important about this. It's not just about being melodic or about fitting in to the harmonic structure of the track, but it's also that really nice rhythm that you're getting, and how that, coupled with all the other stuff in the track, makes the whole thing a lot more exciting. So for the sound on this one, it's made with operator. So this is just a sine wave with a little bit of FM from this waveform that I made. You can see I kind of just drew in some cool stuff there. And it's meant to really just be a sine wave. But you can hear that just brings in a more like kind of plucky thing on top of there. I also have a low pass filter on there with an envelope to make it kind of like punchier. And then I have a pitch envelope on there as well. Then we just have a little bit of chorus, a little bit of reverb, and it's being sidechained to the kick. And yeah, then we have this lead, which I'm going to play this with the bass so you can kind of hear how it fits into the track. So yeah, you can hear it's a pretty simple lead line. Again, just all stuff in the key of F major. So like if we're looking at this music theory wise, so we have like our 6th, major 7th, 9th, 6th again, 5th, major 3rd, 5th, 6th. Yeah, so it's all like pretty simple intervals musically. And that's the thing I want people to realize is like it's really not that hard to do this stuff. It's just kind of like bringing together like the music theory and then the sounds and just doing it in a very cohesive way. Like understanding like this lead isn't going to play every second of the track. Like you don't need something that's just woo woo all in the background like that. Instead, it's better to have like just, okay, you have your chord progression going and then just use some simple notes that are in the same key as that and just have them kind of like coming in and out. Like don't have it constantly going. Like just have it. You know, it's a lot more impactful than if I try to do like some like Like, that's in key, but it's just more effective if you just use. So I think that's the big takeaway with this sound. And this one's made with analog as well. Analog is really good for this style, as you can see. We've just got two sound waves here with the low pass filter. They're detuned a little bit, and the low pass has an envelope. Then we have that amp. And then you can see I just have a bit of vibrato, bit of reverb, and then a compressor side chaining this to the kick. So pretty simple. And then we have the bass. So this bass is playing the chord progression. Typically with this type of track, you know, you might have like a piano play the chords or something, but when you get to the main drop, it's really going to be like right, that's kind of like the main groove there. So we're using the bass kind of like as our chord progression and our bass line. And really, that's a fancy way of saying the bass is just playing the root notes of the chord progression. So you can see, yeah, so we have F major, D minor, A minor, C major. Pretty basic chord progression. If we're looking at this like music theory wise, we have our root note, major sixth, major third, fifth. And the thing that makes this one interesting is you can see it has this like kind of dum 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 dum, and then you get the next chord here and here, actually like a 16th note before the beat. Now for the sound, these kinds of future house, deep house basses, whatever you want to call them, can be very challenging, especially if you're doing it all with synths and you're not using any samples. Because a lot of times, to be honest with these tracks, I do think people are using samples. There's a few different bass packs that have been put out over the years that actually have some very solid one-shots that you can use for this kind of a bass. But I want to show you guys how to make it from scratch, because I have been personally on a bit of a journey to try to find out how to do that myself, and I think I finally nailed it. So what it is, it's 3 layers. You're going to have one layer, which is just a basic sub bass. And this is really important. I would start with this. And what you're going to do is you're going to listen to this with your kick. And just get those two sounding right. Then, and all that is just a square wave, you can see. Yeah, it's just a square wave with a low pass filter, a little bit of an envelope, a little bit of a pitch envelope. That's all it is. Just a nice, simple, punchy sub. Then you have sort of like your donk layer. So that's probably what you're hearing the most on first listen. And I think a lot of people think you just have to make one of these. Making one of these is really only like 30% of it. Really, it's in that sub. It's about having the like big fat sub that blends really well with the kick. You're gonna be super lost if you start with this and then wonder why. Or wonder why it's not working. Because even if we take off this high pass here, see, this thing doesn't really have that good of low end, but it does have a really nice punch that's going to sit on top of the sub. So that's why we have those two layered. And this one is just made with 2 sine waves inside of operator here, doing a bit of FM. You can see, yeah, I've got the second one set like that. We have a little bit of this hard shaper in here. So there's without it. And then with it. You can hear that's important for the sound. And then we have a pitch envelope to make it a little bit more punchy. Then I'm just high passing it to make sure nothing gets in the way of the sub. We have a chorus and a really short reverb as well to kind of give it some space. These are important. If you turn these off, like this on its own, you really need those two to kind of bring it to life. So with these 2 layers, it's still not quite enough. When I made just these 2 layers alone, you can hear it's still not fully there. So that's where this 3rd layer comes in. And this layer is 2 square waves. You can see we're using wavetable. One is an octave up. And that's really important because you need that. Like if these are in the same octave, you don't quite get it. But as soon as you put the second one up an octave, there you go. So that's how this is sitting in the mix. And yeah, so that is just the 2 square waves going into a low pass, which has a little bit of an envelope on it. And then we're just high passing it, because you really just want this for the mid-range. But that is the last secret to the sound, is having that layer. And you can make these with any synth too. But yeah, and then once you have those 3 layers, and they sound really good, you have a good bass line, you know, it's really just a little bit of side chaining, and that's all you really need, and it's already going to sound really fat and full in the mix. So then we have this vocal chop. I'll play that with the bass so you can kind of hear. So that's how that's fitting in there. So this is kind of working on the same idea as the lead. It's like, you know, not having it just constantly going. It's like we just have these nice vocal chops. And they're gonna sound good pretty much anywhere in this track. So all you have to do is just find like an interesting rhythm for them, and there you go. You just don't want to have it just like, you know, like that's too much. Like just keep it really sparse, let it breathe a little. And then for processing on those, I just have a bit of reverb, a little bit of OTT. You guys know what that is. And here's how important that is too. If I turn that off, see, it doesn't have that big like anthemic feel anymore. This is really good for that. And then it's just being sent into the kick, and then I have a high pass filter, and that's it for the vocal chops. So that is everything melodic in the track. It's just these 4 layers. But you can see, if you really do it with intent and carefully, you can make 4 layers say a lot. So then we have the kick. And this is just one of my kicks that I made. The main thing here is it's just like a very tight kick. Like you can hear it's very like, you know, quick and punchy like that. So that's what we got there. And this is really more about just showing you, like, you don't want all that extra processing on the kick. Like, a lot of times, you know, you might, especially with these more, like, I don't want to say EDM, but, like, closer to EDM styles, you know, you see people, they're like, oh, yeah, dude, like, I just took, like, 5 kicks and I layered them together, and then I have, like, 3 layers of saturation, and then there's 5 compressors, and this one's doing this. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Just find a really good fat kick, and it's just about turning it up. You know, you can see this is pretty much the loudest thing in the mix. Like, if you look at this green bar here. And that's really all you need to do if you have a really good sample. And if you don't have a really good sample, and you feel like you need the compression and the saturation and the drum bus to make your kick sound good, then find a new kick. So then we have the hi-hat, like the main hi-hat, which is 2 layers. It's this one, which is actually most of what you're hearing. This is the punch that's making it like, you know, without that, the whole drum groove isn't going to work. Because it's going to be missing that upbeat. But then this one, you can hear kind of adds some body to the sound. It makes it feel a lot more full. Then we have a nice rim shot. You know, just nice, punchy, live sounding rim shot. It goes well with this type of house. Almost like, very like Quartet influenced, honestly. Then we have these 2, which play together. So you can see I took this little loop and I actually just chopped a short piece out of it. I did some fade work on it as well. And then I also have this little open hi-hat. And you can see they play together. You're like, so these are just adding a little bit extra to the drums. Because if I just play like the main drums, you know, that works. And that does sound good, but it's a bit flat. You need a little bit more life on top of that. And that's where these come in. just having something kind of like sort of float into the track like that, I think is going to go really, really well with everything else. And ultimately, it just makes the whole track feel a lot more exciting and lively. So we've got those. And then the last thing down here is just a shaker. So yeah, you can see I've just worked with the velocities a little bit. You can see the shaker is really simple, and it seems subtle, but when you take it out, it's actually missing a lot. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, literally every single thing from this video is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. So definitely go grab that. It really helps support me, guys. Plus, you're going to get this awesome, really nice sounding template that you can go and make your own tracks with and take them as far as you want. Thank you so much for all the support, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow with another